everyone, so today we'll be taking a look at some of the manga coming out in 2025. Before we get started though, just some disclaimers, some general information. One, these are only manga that I'm interested in. There are way too many for me to talk about all the notable releases. These are just ones that I am more than likely going to be picking up next year. Also, I'm going to list the current release dates. However, some of these or many of these might change release dates. So yeah, and I'm also covering only the first 6 months of the year. When we get to June or July, I'll do another one of these videos for the rest of the year. But for now, we're focusing on the ones that are coming out in the first half of 2025. I have over 20 titles I want to talk about in this video, so let's go ahead and get started. The first one comes out on January 14th. This is called Silence. This is a new one from the new publisher that I've really been enjoying, Kana. I believe this is a post-apocalyptic manga. That's really all I need to know to pick it up. And since Kana's other releases have been so enjoyable for me, I'm definitely interested in this one. They have a couple other ones I might be waiting for reviews for before I try those ones, but this one, it's post-apocalyptic, so I'm probably going to enjoy it, and the art looks pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of the art of Radiant a little bit, but I'm definitely going to be picking this one up. Next one is on January 21st. This one is Hell is Dark with No Flowers, the manga. I know there's a light novel that's already been released, and I wasn't sure whether to pick up the light novel or stick with the manga, but this one does look like a horror series, and I would much rather read that in manga format than light novel format, so hopefully it's a good adaptation. We will see. But yeah, this is a horror series, and you know, I will pretty much pick up any horror series that gets released, so this one is on the list for sure. In fact, a lot of these that I'm going to be talking about are horror manga, just because those ones are the ones that stand out to me the most. I'm sure there are other series that I will be picking up, but yeah. Now we're moving into February, so on February 4th is Pet Shop of Horrors. This is a re-release. This one is put out by Seven Seas, but it has been released before. I want to say by Tokyo Pop, but I might be incorrect. And I don't think they ever actually finished releasing it, but I also might be incorrect about that. But this is another horror manga. This one is a josei series. I know people really enjoy this manga, and I'm very much interested in it. I love horror manga. I want to pick up more josei manga. So when you combine horror and josei, I'm gonna read it. Also, obviously we don't know what the actual book is going to look like yet, but I really love the cover that Seven Seas has released so far. It looks really nice, so if they do a good job with the volume, which I'm sure they will, then it should look very nice on the shelf. On February 11th, we have the re-release of Musashi. This is a novel, not a manga, but the new cover is done by Takiko Inoue of Vagabond and Slam Dunk and Real fame. He's probably my favorite mangaka, and obviously he did Vagabond, which is based on this story, but he never finished Vagabond, so I would eventually like to read the story, the novel of Musashi, to see the ending. I'm not really unsatisfied with the way that Vagabond ends, but I would like to see the actual ending and read the novel. And also, this kind of would just look like a really cool art piece on my shelf. Not that that's why I'm going to buy it, but it will look nice probably. So next up on February 25th, surprise, surprise, another horror manga. This one is called Huntress. This one was originally published in Japan in 1993, so it's pretty interesting to me that they're bringing it over now. This is published by Kodansha. So this is by the author of Dragonhead, which is another horror manga. I have read that one quite a few years ago now, and I thought it was okay, not my favorite thing in the world, but at the time I wasn't reading a lot of horror manga, so maybe I wasn't quite used to the storytelling style. But this one I'm pretty sure is a one-shot, and it seems to be about someone being stalked, so psychological horror stuff going on there. Sounds great to me. I'm going to be picking it up, of course. Also on February 25th is Eat. This is another one-shot. This is by the author of The Girl from the Other Side and Monotone Blue and a couple other works that look like this. So this is what I believe is about like a student-teacher relationship, but the teacher like really wants to be eaten. So it's got some cannibalism vibes, sounds a little taboo, but I have enjoyed some of these authors' works and some of them I have not liked at all. So I will be giving this one a try. It's just a one-shot, and I really like the cover, and it's got cannibalism vibes, so I'm gonna go for it. And then this one I don't have an exact release date for, but it just says it will come out in February sometime. This one is the newest release from Smudge, which is the imprint of Living the Line for their horror manga. This one is called Man Sect. This one is a shonen horror manga, And again, another classic. I can't remember exactly when this one was originally published in Japan, but probably like 50 years ago or something like that. And this one, I'm pretty sure, is about a guy turning into a insect, kind of like Metamorphosis by Kafka. So that sounds cool. And I've loved their other releases, so definitely going to be picking this one up. I should have just titled this video all the horror manga that are coming out in 2025 because that's what this is shaping up to be so far. Next one is like an action series. This is the first omnibus of Drifters. It's set to come out right now on March 1st, but this has been pushed back like years, I want to say, at least a year. And so they did originally publish this in single volumes, Dark Horse did, and now they're releasing it in an omnibus format because their single volumes are out of print. This is by the author of Hellsing, which I loved, so I would like to read this. I think it's also on hiatus in Japan and has been for a while. I could be wrong about that, but I'm sure they'll push this back again, but I am interested in picking it up whenever it finally does release. Next up is another re-release, I think, of an older manga. This one is Rosen Maiden, also put out by Seven Seas. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be picking this one up because it doesn't have the best reviews, but it does have the vibes of something I would enjoy, so I thought I'd mention it anyway. This is like a gothic fantasy manga about these dolls, which are almost robots, so that's pretty close to something I like. And I think it's like a death game situation. I read the synopsis, it's very long, and I don't know, I think it's also based on a video game, or there's a video game based on the manga, something like that. I don't know, but it does sound interesting. I will probably wait until reviews come out about this one to see if I'm going to pick it up, but I did thought I would mention it because it kind of fits my vibe, I think, a little bit, so we'll see. Next up on March 18th is Dogs Red. This is by the author of Golden Kamuy. This is his ice hockey manga that he decided to get back to after finishing Golden Kamuy. So I have read a little bit of this on the Shonen Jump app. I enjoy it. I really love this author's sense of humor. I don't know what that says about me, but it is very, very funny. And it's a sports manga and a hockey sports manga, no less. So I'm 100% going to be picking this one up. Now we're moving into April. So we have Jean Bride on April 8th. This one seems to be a sci-fi manga filled with mystery and intrigue. It's about a woman who is really sick of misogyny in her workplace, but then she is reunited with this guy from her past, and he seems to think that he is her destined pair because of this thing called Jean Bride, and so it says there's mystery and stuff like that. So that sounds interesting. I love sci-fi. I love anything that has to discuss like fated pairs, especially in a sci-fi setting, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of commentary there, so that sounds good to me. Next up, we have one that is very, very hyped. This one comes out on April 15th. This is The Climber. This is by the author of Innocent and Dracula, #Dracula, which I'm really loving. This is his sports mountain climbing manga. Heard fantastic things about this from people who have read it through various means, so I'm very interested in picking this one up. It just being by the author of Innocent and Dracula, I would have picked it up anyway, but the fact that it's kind of a sports manga, maybe even a survival manga, that all sounds amazing to me. So 100% picking this one up. Also on April 15th, we have another novel / light novel. This is The Summer Hikaro Died, a light novel. I don't really know if this is just a retelling of the story in light novel format or if it tells like other stories that we don't really focus on in the manga. Either way, I'm going to be picking it up for sure. I really love The Summer Hikaro Died. It has been one of my favorite manga that has come out in the past few years. So anything that has to do with this franchise, I will be buying. Next up, on April 22nd, another manga by one of my favorite mangaka that you can see right here. This one is called Toxic Daughter Chichan, and I don't know anything about this except for it's by Shuzo Oshimi. It's a one-shot, I believe, and I want to say it's based on an existing property, but I could be wrong about that. I literally don't care. It has Shuzo Oshimi's name on it, so I'm going to be buying it and reading it and probably enjoying it. So just thought I'd mention it here because I feel like I have to, but I'm going to be picking it up no matter what. Also on April 22nd, this is called Tamaki Ammane. This is by Fumi Yoshinaga, who did What Did You Eat Yesterday and Oku. Both of those series I absolutely loved. I've read a couple of her other one-shots as well. Now we're getting into May. So on May 27th, we have the very, very, very highly anticipated Steel Ball Run, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 7, obviously. So I have watched all 6 parts of the anime. I have read like parts 1 and 2 in the manga, but then I dropped it and watched the anime instead. So with this, I'm not actually sure I'm going to be picking up the manga because I just prefer the anime, but there's no anime announcement yet. And I don't really know what I'm going to do. But I did feel like I need to mention Steel Ball Run because it is so hyped. And we'll see if I end up reading the manga, because I also don't like reading it. Like, I'm not going to read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure volume by volume with 3 months wait in between, or 2 months wait, whatever it is. I'm not going to do that because that is not how I prefer to enjoy that series. So we'll see. But it is a very highly hyped release and I am interested in it, so I thought I'd mention it here. Next up, also on May 27th, is the art book by Ryoko Kui, the author of Delicious in Dungeon. So this one is called Doodles. It's got a cool cover. It's an art book by an author that I really enjoy, so I'm going to be picking it up. There's really nothing else to say here. Next up, on June 3rd, we have the Bugle Call Song of War. So this looks to be like a fantasy manga filled with like war and sadness. Also seems to have some supernatural elements, as well as like fighting for the fate of the world. This one I've heard some buzz about on various social medias, so I was going to pick it up either way, but that makes me more interested in it for sure. I did notice from the price, it seems to be like the typical Shonen Jump size. I wasn't sure they were going to do that. For some reason, I thought this would be a Viz-Zig size, but whatever. I'm of course interested in all of these, but that one is one of my more highly anticipated releases for next year. Also on June 3rd, we have Roar, A Star in the Abyss, which seems to be a thriller manga about this girl who is cast as an extra in this production in her local town. And because of this, suddenly this woman comes up to her and says that she is her real mother, and she gets thrown into this whole situation, I guess, from the synopsis. And it seems to be about revenge and fame and the bad things that can happen because of that. So very interested in this as well. Next on June 10th is one called Isak or Isaac. I think it's Isak. So this is a historical manga that focuses on this guy, and he is caught in a battlefield in a war, and he is seeking revenge for the person who murdered his master. So I'm picking this up because it says it's for fans of Vinland Saga, and I have heard good things, and it just seems like a really cool historical action manga, which I feel like I haven't read in a while, but I really enjoy those. So yeah, also the art looks cool from the cover. So that's really all I need to know to pick it up. I believe this has also already been released digitally, and I don't really know anyone who has talked about it, but it seems like something I would probably like, so I'm going to give it a try. And lastly, on June 24th, we have Wolf's Daughter, A Werewolf's Tale. So this is quite different from the other manga on this list. This one seems to be a coming-of-age story and about a girl discovering who she really is, but what she really is a werewolf. So I don't think it's like evil, scary werewolf. I think this is more like coming of age, discovering yourself manga, just with the motif of werewolfism, being a werewolf. Listen, I love vampire manga. I love vampire anything, but I really love vampire manga. And I have been thinking the whole time, we need more werewolf manga. So the fact that this was announced, I was really excited about. I don't really think it's going to be like nitty-gritty grossness like a lot of the vampire manga and books that I like, but either way, I do want to read some werewolf manga, and this one is a coming-of-age story, so that sounds interesting as well. All right, so that's everything I had to talk about in this video. I am sure I missed some, even some I'm very interested in. I just kind of threw this list together. So if there are any notable releases in the beginning half of 2025 that you're interested in, please leave those comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, but that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.